Good evening. Welcome to another episode. We are streaming on YouTube. Depression. And please subscribe, everyone, if you're not already. Depression can suck, can't it, ladies? It can really suck sometimes. So, Nance, because you're the queen of joy, do you want to
I know. And as soon as the title came on, I'm like, okay, flashback, Nance, flashback, right?
Yeah.
To transform from a place of feeling powerless.
Yes.
When I think of depression, I think of that feeling of being powerless. There's nothing that can be done to change that feeling, that belief. It's a belief. It's a belief system. For me, that's what it was, a belief that nothing could change.
Yeah, it is because straight away when you went powerless, I'm like, she's not going through the 12 steps, is she? But that can actually do it as well, can't it? Because when speaking to my sponsor going through the 12 steps, I cried because it brings back all these memories of our childhood, growing up, all those traumatic events, and that's what it does. And it can be triggering.
Definitely, definitely. Sadness is a huge part of the experience of depression.
Yeah.
I hesitate with thinking life of depression. I see it as a chapter in my life. Um, a chapter. Sometimes I would dance back and forth in between it. Um, a chapter. And it was states of feeling. Some days I would uh, be more so inclined to be in that state of depression. Yeah. What about you, Ash?
For me, it was after I had babies. That's when those baby blues and that postpartum depression set in. And it wasn't after every pregnancy or every birth, but I can remember after making my transition between 2 kids and 3 kids was one of the hardest transitions for me. And I can remember some days just like sitting on the couch and I'm just crying, and or even just taking a shower and I'm just sobbing and I'm like, what is going on? Um, because when it's not something that you're used to, you don't always recognize, okay, am I just like emotional because my marriage is struggling right now? Or is there something far greater going on? Like, what is happening? It was almost like an out of body experience. I didn't feel like myself and I knew something was off. Um, so yeah, that was the only time I guess I shouldn't say that. Because then after I was sick 6 years ago, I knew that I had been struggling with that recovery. And again, in that state of I'm just sobbing or anything like a specific song or just snuggling with my kids could trigger me into crying because it was like, this is my life, but I almost lost my life. So now what do I do? How do I not so much as bounce back, but how do I move forward and get through this recovery period to let things go, but also create memories with my family? Like there was just so much mental fog and
Brain fog.
just, yeah, it was not me. It didn't feel like me. It felt like some other human walking around in my flesh, to be
Mhm.
honest. But it's definitely an experience, or Nance, like you said, a chapter, um, and a choice of, okay, what do we do to get through this? What do we do? Who do we seek out for help? And it's having those tools to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what does depression from a female perspective actually look like?
I don't know if it's different from a female perspective and a male perspective. I've never been in a male. Well, I'm not in a male body this spin around the sun. I couldn't just like, I don't know the difference. It's just me. I didn't realize that I was there. I didn't realize I was there. That was mine. I had such a battle in my life. When I was working through my life in domestic violence. I worked so hard to take care of my children, to operate my life, that I was go, 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 go. Like I didn't have long periods where I could stay in that state. It was constantly getting up and moving through and dealing with that that life that I had. So for me, it would be bouts of exhaustion that would have, looking back on it now, bouts of exhaustion. That was an indicator in that space that I was in. Deep gloom, like just gloom. Oh, gloom. And I believe deep gloom is one of the indicators of that, as well as despondency. It's never going to get better. Why bother? It's never going to get better. Giving up. Indicators. I call them indicators, and for me, they're states of mind and states of being. That's what I've learned they are.
Yeah. What about you, Ash?
I think the moments of those depressive states for me, it was like you said, Nance, that exhaustion. But I think it also came along with like explosion. And that may sound counterintuitive, but when you're so like into your head, you then kind of wallow in it. And it was nobody's helping me. It just became, and those are parts of burnout as well, but you feel like an island. You're all alone. So then it's everybody around you is not paying attention to the signs, or they're not acknowledging the things that you do. You're just attempting to push through and to get through the day, but then you look at all the things and you're immense overwhelm as well, and maybe even points of, I'm just not going to get out of bed today, or I'm gonna stay up super late and I'm gonna sleep until noon. I don't remember the last time I slept until noon unless I'm like sick. But it's those ebbs and flows. And I think too, just all of a sudden you're just in tears. Well, why am I crying? What is going on? Like, I could just be sitting here laughing 1 minute and then you're crying the next. So it's like that really big emotional roller coaster that you seem to be on, and you can't figure out how to get off of it or what to do. You're just, I don't know. That's a lot of your response is, I don't know what's going on. And then of course, when you say the words I don't know, you just shut your brain down from finding an answer or finding that solution. So that's, I think, what it was for me as a woman. It was just the ebbs and flows, the explosion, the sadness. Like it was like a ping pong ball in my brain.
Absolutely.
I can't even. Like that one was predominant. Like I can't even. And even wasn't even describable. I can't even. Like it was, I can't. I have nothing. Like nothing.
Yeah.
And we as you were talking, it brought me back to other times in my life as well. And I think that's part of the human experience, is having those times when we don't reach out for support as well. Like it's a pattern of not reaching out for support.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome,
That
Nick.
helps.
Live from the hotel.
Yes. Sorry, bad Wi-Fi. Yeah, staying at the hotel. So struggling to look at them. So I apologise for getting late.
It's okay. It's all right. So talk to us, Nick, about your perspective on your experience surrounding being depressed.
Yes, well, it's been something I think I've battled with on and off over a long time. With me, I think it can come out of the blue, really. So it can, is that suddenly like a, I think when I sort of feel like I think it's when I feel like I'm struggling, when I feel like I'm failing. I think I can suddenly get overwhelmed with depression. It can be like a big heavy cloud suddenly, like overwhelmed, and I think it's that sort of sudden heavy, real sort of overwhelming, like it overtakes me. I struggle, when I get it, I struggle to do anything. I like literally could just go to bed and hide away and not do anything. And it can be a battle at times. I think it comes and goes. It's something I've always battled with, and I think yeah, it's for me it's my life's had some ups and downs, and I think that inner voice, like sometimes sort of saying to me, perhaps I've I failed at times, I lost it, like I said, I'm not really got a, I mean, like a lot of us, I've got a career, a business, up and down, but I'd say not, struggling in some ways. My son lives in another country, and at times, like those things, little thing can trigger that reminder, trigger that, and yeah, it can be I think it's all with depression. It can be something that different things trigger different people, and when it comes, it's like the heaviest cloud, like a black cloud of distinction, takes you down. Yeah, it's hard. It is. I mean, I think for me, like the longer you got to battle it, and the longer it takes to get out of it, the harder it is to get out of it. You got to sort of. So yeah, there's definitely something I know very well.
Absolutely, yeah, and that actually, because people misconcept. I think it was you, Ash, that mentioned about not getting out of bed, not having that motivation to say, I just can't do it today. And the misconception between depressed and being anxious about it. So
yeah. Well, and I think the anxiety usually couples with depression. At least what I have seen in a lot of even my friends or people that I know that have battled with depression. They usually have anxiety coupled with it. But knowing what anxiety feels like. If I have to drive through a big city, I am anxious as all get out. As most of you know, if I have to travel, I am anxious. And what is anxious? It's just that nervousness. You get the rolling guts. Like it's just, you're just stressed about it and you think about it constantly. You're trying to maybe do your research on something, like an what's the word I'm looking for? Like an over focus, a hyper focus on what it is that you are gearing up to do. And I find myself doing that in certain situations. And then once I conquer that situation, I'm like, hey, I'm a badass. Like I just drove in this giant city that I've never freaking driven before, or I just navigated these two huge ass airports that I'm like looking at a map and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't leave for another 2 weeks and my guts are already crazy about it. Like, because you begin to plant those seeds in your head and then you hyper focus on them and you think about them. And it's just this constant replay over and over and over again. Versus, what if there was a way to say, okay, brain, Right now, you're making me feel anxious. I appreciate that. You're trying to protect me. But at the end of the day, I got this. I don't need you to make me feel that way. So it really can be a mindset shift sometimes too. And that's not always, but a lot of times, especially as women, because we attach everything to emotions, we can tend to hyper focus on things that are never even going to happen, or worry about things that are just things to worry about. And it's just this repetitive thought that goes over and over again. And
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because over the last week or so, I've actually been struggling with my mental health to the point I've now started my CBT therapy, and well, I've done 2 sessions now. I've got another one on Monday, and he's not focusing on the trauma just yet. He's focused on my mood swings and me actually getting to sleep, because I've not been sleeping, and I've been I'm gonna say I've been fucking focused on worrying about Christmas, because obviously the Christmas period's coming up, where the fact that I've not got my daughter again this year for another year, and this is the first year I'm not drinking. So I'm struggling to process that until someone actually on social media said, Adam, don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, if you can get through the first year of not drinking, it'll get easier after 1 year. So that's what I'm going to focus on, but it's going to be really hard. It's going to be a test, because the first year is always the hardest, isn't it?
Changing habits, right? And it's big. It is big. It is. Changing habits is big.
Yeah,
it
is.
It is. It's a big challenge. So I popped something in the chat, and I'm all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, that's why I turned my screen off and dashed to the other room so I could go grab what it is that I want to speak to, show and share. So I'm enamored sometime. I'm just like mind blown, because one of the things that has helped me and so many people that I've had the blessing to work with is Bosch. Okay, Nick's nodding. Oh my God, yes, score. I love it when someone knows something about Bosch, because it's one of those supportive opportunities that has been around since 1930. Let's do the math. We're coming up on 100 years, and it's not mainstream. And it is a homeopath. And that's perhaps why not as many people know about it, because you don't see the big flashy commercials up on TV, right? It's not sponsored to the same degree as other things are sponsored on media. Right? Just roll with it, Nance, roll with it. And
it's going to trigger me with these medias,
Well, no, it's a fact. It's a fact.
Sponsorship. Media doesn't cover this shit.
Sponsorship leads to commercials on television that have to do with pharmaceuticals, as well as sports betting, profit. So it's not a profit-driven industry. Homeopathy, it truly isn't. Otherwise, there would be commercials up there on it. But what it is, and I mean, I just love having them all. Like, it's so cool. So Bach flower essences do not contraindicate with any medication. So they're supportive. And they're flower essences. And they helped me when I was in that deep dive into my emotions, where beneath all of like emotions and indicators, they're not racked and stacked in perfection. You don't feel depressed, therefore you act this way. You don't feel anxious, therefore you act this way. We're human beings, and we're like Tetris. We're multi-challenged. So for me, when I was recommended to go to somebody who had different modalities, biofeedback was what led me to an understanding of much about myself. And I remember when the lady said to me when I was having biofeedback done, she asked me, "Are you angry?" I'm like, "No." Like, no, maybe a little bit. Like, no. And she's asked me a couple other questions. She's focused around anger, right? And I'm like, no. Good. And then she turned the computer screen, and I'm like, my organs in my body were like the ones that worked with the anger, the gallbladder, the spleen, like the lower chakra, like they were on fire. My adrenal system was down to zero-ish. Like it was so low that she was like, we need to move this up. And I recommend you check in with your doctor, because it was so incredibly low. And I started working with the Bach flower essences, morning and PM protocols. The reason I'm bringing this up to you, and Nick's going like this, so I'm sure that Nick can help Adam.
I know. I listen. Yeah, I listen.
Right? Because as soon as you said repetitive thoughts, I knew which one. I mean, I can do it with you, Adam. I got my handy dandy. I can go through a session with you, and then you can source it. That's even a better idea. You and I can off camera set up something so that you can understand. Because it was just like, as soon as you were talking about this, I'm like, this one. And what happened in my experience was, because Bach flower essences worked so well, and anybody who knows me from back then, I was like, no, I was taking these droppers like a lot. And it was different remedies. Like every 4 to 6 weeks, I would get a new remedy and a new remedy and a new remedy until I felt like a whole new person in different stages of my life. And then I wanted to learn about it. So I learned, that's how I learned, little sticky notes.
Yeah.
And then I created an Excel sheet. I actually created 37 Excel sheets. And then I went to all the soul patterns and created about another 150 more, because that's the kind of learner I am. So yeah, I would love to work with you on that, Adam, and rock and roll that, so you've got some understanding, because you can help so many people in your community understand as well. And it is off the hook amazing. It works with women who have babes in vitro. It works with children. It works with animals. Oh my God, animals, incredible. Like when you've got, I worked with a lady and a pet once, and Baby was the dog's name, and Baby was licking and licking and licking, just the fur was gone. Poor sweet soul. One remedy made such an amazing difference. One remedy, to see the change. Oh yeah, cool stuff, man. Cool stuff.
Yeah, well, Ash put in the chat, I think you're doing the group therapy and Nance.
Ash, like me. Well, and I don't always think about many of the modalities that I use. And then when I do, you can see how much I light up on fire, right? Like it's absolutely amazing. And I still use it myself. When I find myself being very compulsive about uncleanliness in my home, or myself, when I start being extra critical of myself, I know it's crabapple. I'm like, oh my God, crabapple. Go get some. So I use it. And there's a subtle shift. It's a subtle shift, and yet it's very quick and very responsive. So yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about this.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what it is. And speaking of crab apples, I've actually got a crab apple tree in my front garden.
Cool.
So there you go.
Well, and this is the essence of it. So it's the vibration of crabapple. It's really cool, Adam. It's not the same as drinking crabapple. It's just not. So go ahead, Nick.
No, I was going to say. I mean, I know the back flower remedies well. I worked in a health shop for a while, and so I've learned all about these things. I really believe in the natural approaches to health, and I think it sort of comes back to sort of I don't know, as Ashly was saying about the sort of what's anxiety and where's depression. I think anxiety is what everyone experiences at moments, and might be anxious about going for a job interview, but then if we if lots of job interviews can't get a job, then we might start getting really depressed about that. And I think using it's trying to. I think that, anxiety is normal, we'll have it, but obviously depression is something more serious. We obviously less people have it, and it's more serious. But I think we part of it is trying to pick up those signs and see how we can have a natural approach to recognizing and supporting where we're anxious before sometimes it can develop into depression, because sometimes being anxious about situations or things, if not supported in the right way, I think can lead to being depressed. So
I think what we should talk about now is, because obviously we've spoke about depression in us as adults, but we don't necessarily talk about the depression in the youth, because they always complain they've got sore tummy or they don't feel well, but people misconcept that with actually having depression and feeling pressure from like exams or something happening in school or something happening at home. So what can we do as adults to help the next generation so we can break that cycle? Nancy knows.
Heal or heal thyself. Heal or heal thyself. You got to work on you. You have to work on you.
Yeah.
You. One common denominator is you, and talking about it, right? Reaching out for support, being a part of a community, being a part of a parenting community when you're a parent, and understanding that there are so many things that we've yet to learn. So many things that we've yet to learn. Sometimes I remember different school counselors for my kids, and some knew a lot about some things, some knew a lot about other things. I didn't resonate with them all, and yet I was willing to work with the counselors. That was the resource that I had, and if I wasn't finding the resources, I would ask the counselor to help connect me with other people. It's connections, big time connections, and conversation, right? Conversation. Talk to your kids. Adult kids too, because I have adult.
And that's actually me, because I've had on and off therapy, counselling, whatever you want to call it, since 2008. So a very long time. And I never gave it a chance. I thought, or maybe I just wasn't ready to talk yet. But this therapy I'm getting now is totally different to any other therapy I've ever had. It's totally different. So something's clicked to me. Say, just deal with it, mate. If you want to heal, do something.
Well, I think it's like, if you don't talk to other people, you end up talking to yourself. And sometimes, the voices you have in your own head as you try and work things out in your own mind, and let's like we say, sleep is, dreams are a way of sort of trying to work out what's going on in life in our day. And if we don't talk to other people and discuss things, we'll just do it in our own head. And sometimes, it's better, to get some other people's perspective and talk to other people than just, like I say, just being inwards in our own mind trying to work things out, because that battle can be a battle sometimes, trying to work out the right thing to do, and so we need to talk to someone, because there's not someone else to be in our own head, in our own mind. So and I think. Sorry to say, I think it seems like such an obvious thing we keep saying, but it is obvious, because it is the simplest, most obvious, and that's why it's so most important. I mean, I said to my son the other day, he's only 9, that the one thing I can offer him, because he lives in another country, is that whenever he grows up, if he ever wants to talk with anything, he knows I'm there. That's the best thing I can offer to him, is to say, day or night, if call me, if I see the call, I'll pick it up, and that is one thing. May not have the money to take him away fancy things and financially, but that is my guarantee, my promise, that you can always talk to me, because that's the most important thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. So Ash, with you home educating 6, 7 kids, whatever, so you've got a good tribe there, how do you keep your mental health in check? Because obviously your husband probably struggles with his mental health. The kids probably struggle, I don't know, but you're like the mother of, I don't know.
So the biggest thing for me that I learned after my illness 6 years ago was, one, something needed to change. I was very burned out. And a lot of times we confuse depression and burnout as the same thing, because they are very similar. There's very few differences in the two. But I was so incredibly burned out, and knowing that I needed to begin putting me in the driver's seat and prioritizing my own health. So that's definitely evolved more over the last probably 2-3 years, I would say, more so than what it did before. But it was okay, I'm going to schedule time away for myself alone, whether it's locally or here in town, or away, like a different state. I'm going to make sure that I have a skincare routine for myself, even those 5 to 10 minutes that I have that, okay, I'm going to wash my face. I'm going to make myself feel human. As a mom, that became a priority, whether it's maybe on the off chance I've got the extra time, I'm going to take a 30-minute bath. I'm going to lock the door. I'm going to take my book. I'm going to watch a TV show, whatever it is, it's me time. And the biggest thing that I tell moms, I will ask them this one question and they will look at me cross-eyed. Do you have a lock on your bedroom door? Huh? Do you have a lock on your bedroom door? No. Get one. Because not only can you lock yourself in your room, I do that quite regularly, especially when I'm podcasting, or if I just need time, like, go away. I need you to leave me alone for 15 or 20 minutes. But that also allows for connection with my husband. Lock the door. So it seems so simple, but it's one of the things that we often forget we can do. So my husband and I have also made it more of a priority where, okay, guys, peace out. We're going to dinner, because I have kids that are old enough now that can keep an eye on the younger ones for us to leave for a couple hours, whether we're going to the store to buy materials for the next project or we're going out to dinner. I don't leave them overnight yet. We're not at that stage. But even prioritizing getting away with my husband, whether it's a weekend or a week, making those specific things a priority helps with my mental health, because it allows me that connection, not just with myself and personal growth with myself, but it also allows that connection with my husband. So that makes a huge difference when you have a house full of kids and dogs and, all the other things that we do. So it's really about the priority of it all. And setting the boundary of, nope, I'm not doing that, or, okay, I didn't get to that today. That's okay. I'm going to make myself a note and I'll take care of it tomorrow. Or maybe it comes down to, maybe I'll get to it sometime this week. But just not putting that pressure on myself, knowing that the mess is still going to be there, or if I don't get to the dishes today, or the kids don't get to the dishes today, well, we've got tomorrow. Like, just letting some of those things go, knowing that the family will still function and they will be okay. They have a roof over their head, they've got food in their bellies, they've got clothes on their back. Everything else, if it happens, it happens. If not, oh well. So I've really had to work on that mindset or that attitude shift of, Mess drives me nuts in my house. I like my spaces clean, but having 6 kids, I have to remind myself, memories are being made, they're healthy, they're enjoying life, those types of things. At one point, they will be out of my house, and then I can have a clean house to my heart's content. But right now, this is the season I'm in, and I have to be okay with that.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Pretty much, because there's nothing you can do about it. Like for you, you've got little Wyatt. What are you going to do? There's nothing you can do.
Don't even get me started with him.
You love him, he loves you, he's in that development stage, and that's the thing. You can either absolutely hate that season, or you can just ride the wave with it, because he's going to grow so fast, and then all of a sudden you're going to be on to the next phase, and you're like, shit, can we go back to the stage of that one, because I really don't like this one either.
No.
But again,
no, the stage is at the minute where you turn your back for a split second, he's there. You go to the toilet, he's there.
Oh, I remember that stage.
You know how many babies I had to breastfeed on the toilet, Adam? Because you had to go, but the baby was nursing? Probably all 6 of them. I kid you not, because that's just what you do. Or the baby's sleeping, I have to pee really, really bad, and I can't get up because they're sleeping on me. And then all of a sudden you move them, and then they're awake, and you're like, oh.
I know the feeling. Because I remember, and this is an embarrassing story. It's embarrassing. I know you're all going to piss your sides laughing here, but obviously Kerry was out at one point, and it was just me and Wyatt. I literally was on the toilet, and I had Wyatt in my arms. I was stuck there for 20 minutes. Every time I put him down, he screamed.
It's like...
So I got a story when Noah was about 2 or something, 2.5, learn to speak, and he came up to me one day and he said, Dad, I really need a coffee. And I said, you don't need a coffee, you're like 2.5 years old, go away. He said, no, Dad, I really need a coffee. And I said, go away, son, you get in trouble. And he came back and said, Dad, I really need a beer. And I said, you don't need a beer, you're 3 years old, go away. And like when he came back, he said, Dad, I really need a coffee beer. I really need a coffee beer. And basically, I realised that in the morning, I would get up and say, I need a coffee. I really need a coffee, to wake up and tired. And sometimes after work, I said, I really need a beer. And he was listening, And so, yeah, he'd toddle up to me and say, oh, Dad, I need a coffee. I really need a coffee. I need a beer, coffee beer. So you've got to be careful what you say about them. What they want.
That's priceless. They are listening. And what a beautiful way to be in a conversation about depression, in that we're sharing how much our lives are similar, interrelated. We go through experiences that the joys, the sorrows, the struggles, we are here together. You're not alone. It's okay to accept help from other people. There's so much beauty in this conversation. I love it, right?
I think, like, to your point, Nance, for saying that, I think a lot of times when you talk about teenagers or the youth, for example, they feel like they need to bottle it up, that they don't have somebody that they can trust or that they can go to talk about it, because they're afraid they're going to be judged. I mean, look at how we are as adults. We're afraid to open up to people because we're afraid of being judged, and the pushback that happens because society has taught us, just keep it to yourself, just hide it away, versus being vulnerable and being open with people. You see this a lot with foster youth, where they don't have a lot of people in their life that they can trust. So their escape or their way to express it is generally by cutting. And that can be in kids that aren't in foster care, but you see it a lot within the foster youth because they haven't had that chance to or been taught how to work through their trauma. So to get it out, let's just cut, but let's hide it. So it's so sad to see. My mom worked with girls especially in the foster care system, and I think almost everyone that she had was a cutter. And you would have to hide the razor blades, hide the knives, like hide everything that you use in your day-to-day life, because if they got a hold of it, you were for sure gonna know or be dealing with and potentially hospitalizing them for a psych hold because they're cutting. So that is, it's so, and some of them, yes, were on antidepressants already. So there's some kind of disconnect of, okay, is this really depression? Is this the cry for help? Like what is this? But doctors are so used to just pop a pill, just pop a pill, just pop a pill. Oh, that doesn't work. Let's give you another one. Let's increase the dose. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's get to the root of the issue. Why are they doing this? And oftentimes we just want to hide it. We don't want to talk about it. We just want to stuff it. And that's where a lot of the issues come from. We're not dealing with our traumas. So, yeah, it's don't feel like you're on an island all by yourself, because I guarantee you, if you can find a mom friend or man to man, whatever it is, there's going to be so many similarities that you thought you were alone. And in reality, they're struggling with the same damn thing you're struggling with. And you didn't know it because you didn't bother to ask them or to be vulnerable with people. People look at vulnerability as such a negative thing. It's so important to be vulnerable with people, even if it's just a small circle or one person, and it could save your life. Because then all of a sudden we're going to your funeral because you couldn't reach out to somebody because of the risk of suicide or the increased numbers of suicide. So don't feel like you have to be alone and go through the suffering alone. There's this community, there's such a community of people that are willing to help and to be an ear and to be a shoulder to cry on if you need to cry. But you gotta be willing to be vulnerable.
Oh, absolutely, Ashly. Oh, wow. Big time. Big time. Big time. I mean, that was one of the challenges in my life, was vulnerability and telling my truth. And I began in small ways with people that I felt safe and supported. It was not something that came natural because of the pattern of my life. And when you are able to become more and more vulnerable and more authentic, then you become a change maker, because you have the courage to tell your story, tell your truth. And what a huge difference in my life and the millions of lives that I have touched. I didn't realize, and I was doing the math on that, and I had to do some analytics for my 2024 how has your year been? And when I looked at taking my analytics and adding them up when it came to the podcasting, the writing, it legit is millions of viewers. And wow, like you said, it takes a lot to be vulnerable and to share your story. And when you do, the lives that you touch, the people that you are able to help, wow. What were you going to say, Adam?
About vulnerability, because obviously it's good to talk about how we feel. Totally understand, but what if? And I've experienced it as well, where you want to scream, you want to shout, you want to rant about how you're feeling, but the words just won't come out. So what do we do? And when people persist in us getting to talk, but we just can't talk or even find the words. What do we do? Because it's
Right.
like us men, we struggle to talk.
I think if I jump in there, I mean, I think I've been to a few talks where some people have shared very personal stories of their battle with depression and trauma, and they've when you see people in the audience who've gone, wow, I've been through a similar thing, I connect with that. That's it's that connection with other people who can identify with it and relate to it. That can make it such that ripple effect of it's inspiring. Because I think we often we're not aware of the power of our story, and the vulnerability is part of that. And I think when certainly not just talking about one-to-one, but if you're talking to people at events, or you're working with a charity and you're talking to vulnerable women, you share your story. It's not just you getting it about getting it out and talking to someone, get off your chest, but it's how people in your audience can see, well, they're not alone. They're not the only one on their own, who've gone for this. Other people have gone for this, and it's and I remember an event of Easter recently, and I sat in the audience. This woman was telling this incredibly moving story, and I could see different people in the audience, were they were sort of perking up, and they were they could see, they could relate to it. And I think that's kind of the thing about sort of the importance of sharing our story and the sort of vulnerability within that. It takes courage, doesn't it, to open ourselves up and be vulnerable. That's one of the most courageous things, to be vulnerable, isn't it? Because none of us want to do it. We all want the opposite. No one wants to expose the vulnerability, do we?
I've done that.
So I think it's one of the greatest things.
I agree with what you've said, Nick. And in response to, I'm trying to work through the heal or face. Anyway?
LSC.
Okay.
I think it's LSC.
I don't know how to pronounce that. Can you put the comment back on the screen, Adam?
Yeah.
So listen to those who have the courage to speak, and keep on listening to those who have the courage to speak until you find your person who is like, okay, that's my one. That's the person I want to listen to, and allow them to be the voice that you don't have. Find someone else. When you've told people that don't care or use it against you, okay, those are not your people.
No.
Those are not your people. And you need to find other people, and you need to go through layers and levels of people until you find your people. Build your tribe, build your tribe, build your tribe. I mean, there are a lot of people from other chapters in my life who are not my people. That they were players in the game of life. They were characters in my story who did not support me. There's a list, and that's part of the experience of being alive. Quitters never win and winners never quit. Find other people. Otherwise, you're going to continue. You'll stay in the loop of making excuses. The people that I talked to didn't support me, so I'm not going to talk. And I mean, if you're doubting what I'm saying, then choose Joy: A Survivor's Guide for Hope. Open it up and see, because the life that I lived, I was stuck in that story for a very long time. And that's why I stayed in a battered relationship for over 20 years, because I was stuck in the story. I was stuck in the belief. I did not reach out to those people. And that's why I'm such a strong voice to say, find more people, keep talking to more people, keep reaching out, find your tribe, your tribe, build it.
Well, and I think too, like, that's the power of social media. In true reality, you know how many people you can reach with your story on social media? Now, some people are like, well, don't air out all your junk. Well, I'm not saying air out everything, but when you're talking about your story, that gives you such a mass reach to people that's where you begin to find and build connections with people that might be, again, like, take us, for example. Like, I'm in freaking freezing Wisconsin. Nancy, you're in Canada. And Adam and Nick, oh, shush. Nick and Adam, you guys are in the UK. Like,
Yeah.
how would we have connected if we weren't out there sharing our story and somehow coming together? Like, I have so many social media Facebook friends that, yeah, I may have never met in person, but at the
Yet.
end of the
Well, me and
day,
Nick have.
yes, you have, but we share something in common, because being vulnerable and authentic with people versus using the platform of, oh, my life is perfect, it's horseshoes and rainbows. Bullshit, it ain't. It's messy, but you just want everybody to think that everything is perfect. Like, that's not authenticity, that's not vulnerability. Like, I have had so many people, I don't want to say come out of the woodwork, it's not necessarily that, but appreciate the fact that I get vulnerable on social media, because it's like, wow, that's the shit she's been through. Maybe I can share my story, or like, I can be authentic too. So it's giving other people that inspiration and that courage to share their story when you can open up and share your own. So
Absolutely.
take
Yeah.
it to social media. If you don't have people in your life that in physical life, like person, take it to social media. Leave some parts out if you don't feel comfortable sharing that. But watch the people that will come and support you in that, and build a relationship with them, even if it
Yeah.
is on social media. Who gives a shit?
Exactly. Exactly.
Love that, Ashly. I love that, right? I love that. And I mean, be a
Nick, you
champion in your
muted. I don't know what the hell's going on with your device, Nick, but it was flashing
I'm in a
green, wasn't
hotel,
it?
so I dodgy Wi-Fi, and it's flickering a bit. Sorry. Yeah, no, I love what you said, Ashly. Flickering a bit. I think my dodgy Wi-Fi. Well, yes. So basically, I mean, I think you're so right. I mean, find your tribe, Nancy. Is not everyone's going to agree with what you say. Not everyone's going to be able to support you on your side. But there is a tribe out there. You know, there's always going to be people out there. You know who you can connect with. It's finding those people. And yeah, social media means it's easier than ever. You know, you are still opening yourself up, making yourself vulnerable, however you put yourself out there. But I think, you know, if you've got that genuine tribe and people who share the same values, the same vision, the same belief, the same, you know, the same experiences, then, you know, that's the essence of a tribe. It's, you know, it's you know, it's like this, you know, the mental health warriors tribe, you know, it's we know that passion and that, you know, for what it stands for, you know, why we do it, what we do, you know, and I think that is the way. You know, I so believe in the concept of this tribe. I think, you know, I'm glad you used that word, Nancy, because I think that is it, really. You know, it should be. The strength is not just done in numbers, but it's done in the belief and the values, what you do and why you do it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So, next week, we got nothing. Got nothing. So, Nick, we need your
we have
help.
a surprise.
Ashly, you need to switch
We
on
have
and figure out what we're going to talk about.
We have a surprise for you next week, and we'll tell you about it soon.
Yes.
But Nancy will be back in 2 weeks for our final show of the year, as we're talking about, which is a trigger warning for everyone, and that is alcohol around Christmas.
Good one. That's a good one to talk about. That's a very good one to talk about. I like that.
But we may
Yeah,
have to throw in a bit of substances in there as well, because people use that as well.
Oh, there's more than just alcohol. That's for sure. There is.
Absolutely.
There's a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot around that time, and the dangers of it for many. The dangers of it for many. So
yeah. So, any final words, peeps, before we sign off? Ashly, go and Snow Angels or something. I don't know.
No, I'm not. We don't have that much snow.
any.
I would say final words, especially as we are coming up to Christmas. Ask for help. If you're finding, especially that this time of year is a major struggle for you with the time changes and it's getting dark earlier, whatever it is, and you're going through that depression state or just feeling like you're not yourself, seek out people and ask for help. Be vulnerable with people because we don't know how to help you if we don't know what's going on.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, the reality of this season is that when we have lost a loved one, this is a very difficult time because the memories of what Christmas was is not what Christmas is. When we've gone through a divorce, when we've gone through the challenges of life, we just lost our job, and everyone's out there looking all merry, and life ain't so merry, right? Like it is. It's about being honest, being vulnerable, seeking out the help that you need. Please, you're not alone unless you choose to be alone. So seek help. Seek help for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if people cannot find the words to express how they feel, show them. There's always alternatives. Show them through music, show them through art, show them through writing. Just showing a way. Find a strategy that works. Nick?
Yeah, I think if your words, you know, if by sharing your experiences, talking to someone, you help one person, then that is enough to make everything you say and do worth it. You know, it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to share your story. It takes courage to open up. And if, like I say, if you just by doing that, being courageous, being brave, and doing that, you help just one person feel better, cope better, then that makes it all worth it. So it goes back to if you reach out to others and support others, other people support you, and that's the knock-on effect of how we support each other. So,
Absolutely. Right. So on that note, we will see you next week, and so we'll discuss it off camera what we're gonna do because I ain't gonna do. See you later.